Hey, welcome back to my channel. So today you've seen the title of the video. We are going to be taking a look at my track Guiding Light using the new Audio Imperia sample library solo, Lyrical and Expressive Soloists. Without further ado, let's dive straight into it. So I'm assuming you've heard the track. If not, you can go check it out somewhere here, linked as well as in the description. But I will play through it. Just bear in mind that this is not the final mix or master of the track. I will go through the final mixing, mastering session, probably, if we've got time. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, so let's get started with this. Here we go. So first thing you'll notice is that the overall layout is slightly different. That is because this was a template that I was trying out. There's actually a lot more tracks in here than this. I've got some stuff hidden because I'm just showing what I've used in this rather than other things. You'll notice that the strings are at the top, which is not in score order. Normally they would be down here somewhere, and then you'd have percussion higher up. Percussion would be, here or whatever. But for this track, I decided to try something different, see if I wanted to approach the template in this way. However, I can confirm that I definitely prefer working in score order. There are many reasons for it, but just wanted you to kind of be aware of this. So, I mean, in a way, it kind of works because we've got strings, brass, woodwinds, and choir, and that's where we've got instruments from solo. So I'm going to keep it like this, and let's just get straight into it. So we're going to play through the track. I'm going to try and jump around with the MIDI. And in this video, I am going to mainly focus on solo and what's going on with that. Rather than other libraries, because again, this is kind of like an overview, yes, showing some of the other stuff that's been used, but mainly we're going to be focusing on solo. That's the focus of this video. So that's the track. You can see all the different MIDI parts here. Let's dive into it. I'm going to play the actual final mixed mastered version that I made, but I'm going to overlay it over this once I've edited it. So let's take a listen. All right, that is it. Let's dive into it. So you've heard the track now. Again, so basically, I don't want to keep this too long. I'm going to try and keep this as concise as I can. So we start off with these pads from Solo, just really simple. That's how that sounds out of the box. This one. Just some subtle EQs taming some of the fundamental frequencies. And then over the top of that, we have the gorgeous solo flute. I've done a few things on here. And just so you know, I was using an older version of the library at this point. This wasn't the final release version. So obviously I'm leaving room here for the player to breathe. You can hear the nice natural swells. Obviously, you know, the sustains on these notes, you have a natural crescendo and diminuendo. I believe the reason why they looped it when you get that diminuendo and then it rises again is so that you have the option. You can either stop it before it loops the sample, or you can loop it if you want it to keep going. I'm not really fussed about that. The main things is we've just got a kind of low cut there in the Woodwinds because we don't want anything really below 100 necessarily with what I've got here with these soloists. There's a bit of EQ here. It's helping get some of those fundamentals there. I've got a stereo delay because this is a hybrid orchestral track. This isn't a mainly orchestral track, so we can get a little bit more experimental with what we do here. It's very subtle. We have another EQ. Just taming some of those frequencies. We have Soothe 2, again helping with those resonances. I should mention as well, I'm using the completely dry version of this, so I have turned off the reverb and I've used the mic positions rather than the mix, just because I wanted a slightly further back sound, like as if it's in the context of a room where an orchestra might perform, rather than being super up front. So that's why I've used the mic positions here, which is super useful. We're using the combined legato. That's an awesome new feature in this library. Basically, if you play here, it's set by velocity, so basically depending on what velocity you use, different legato articulations will be triggered. Check out the official walkthrough video from Audio Imperia, which I created, which you can actually see this in action a lot better. So I'll link that down below, and it might be up here as well, but yeah, that'll be linked. Then we have this EQ, and then decapitator. I think that comes in towards the end, just to give it a bit more presence. Obviously you might think, holy moly, that's high, but we have got the mix pulled back, and it worked in the context of this. I think it's towards the end here, yeah. Can't forget the reverbs. I know everyone's going to ask me, so the reverbs are VSS3 large warm hall. That's mainly the one that I use all the time. I just change the decay time sometimes, and then the other one is black hole. That's mainly what I've used on these soloists. It just has such a nice long tail, so most of these soloists in this track have that. Pretty much all of them do, as far as I'm aware. All right, so that's that, and then here you'll hear this English horn come in. A bit of mixing I did there to affect the volume of that how I wanted it, to give it that exact sound. And then down here we have this synth is what everyone asked me about. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people asked about. basically just a patch I made in Serum, and I've got the filter cut off here. So it sounds silly like that. It sounds a bit 80s maybe, but in the context of the mix there, I needed to bring in some higher frequencies, so you don't really hear that. Sounds really nice like that though, with the filter down. That's really nice. Again, we've got a bit of black hole on here, some EQs. That's not really the main thing, but yeah, this is the thing that I've created. Pretty standard stuff from what I remember. That filter makes a huge difference. Serum is a really awesome synth for creating your own custom things like this. All right, moving on. I don't want to spend too much time on that. The sub, I've had some people ask me that. You can use whatever library for that really. I've used the EXS24 in Logic, which now in the latest update is called some sort of sampler or something, I don't know. But you can use any kind of clean sine wave. That works perfectly for that. So yeah, pretty simple here in the intro. As we move forwards, we get these things coming in. So what I did here, there isn't actually an ensemble patch for solo for anything, but I basically just loaded up everything. So I loaded up violas, violin, and the solo cello. They're all in the modern mix, I think. Yeah, just turned off the reverb, added my own reverb, and created this kind of ensemble patch like that. Obviously just made sure they're all routed to the same thing. And that just works really nicely with this ensemble patch, which I'm pretty sure is from Jaeger or Araya. Yeah, there we go, from Jaeger. Cool. So if we add this, let's add solo in and see how that sounds. That's really nice, I really like that, just adds a bit of detail. And then we just had some other libraries here. I can't really remember what I used. There's some Araya, some different things in here. But I'm not really going to go into that. Let's just stick to solo. So that's there layered with like a ensemble playing the cellos, and we've got this solo violin. And that's that. Really like that sound of that in context. Ooh, what I really like here is the solo soprano angelic. So we have the same again. Same again. There we go. Just sounds beautiful in context. A bit of soothe there. Just helping tame some of those resonant frequencies there. In context of this whole mix, I really love how this sounds. Beautiful. Flute's doing the same thing as before, I think. Bassoon. You know, some of my programming isn't perfect here, but this will give you an idea that everything, it's all about the context of the track. Then we go into this next section, moving into a slightly different feel overall. So here we've got playing those shorts. We do have the violin and viola from solo. So that's adding most of the detail, and then we have the strings ensemble. Now we combine those together. That's that. We have same thing again. So it just gives you an idea of how you can use those soloists to provide you with more detail in the ensembles if you want. So without the soloist here, with the soloist, or the same the other way around. If you have a soloist but you want to add a bit more room to the sound, that works the same. And over here, the main parts that are playing here are the solo clarinet and flute. The clarinet and flute are basically doing this kind of call and response thing. So the clarinet plays, the flute responds, the clarinet plays, and the flute responds. The second time they kind of play over each other a little bit. So let's go through here, check how those look. So you will see them overlapping a bit here. Cool. And that's it really. We have a few little pings that I've made just with a piano. You can do this with any piano. You can see a lot of reverb. Sorry, a lot of EQ and reverb. Distant. Got the serum pluck. Just some basic drum hits. And I think that's everything there really. And here we have these guys. Combined with the ensemble. It's basically just almost like a little fill, like a drum fill to get into the next section. We have the piano playing something faster, triplets. So again, just changing, when you've got like the end of a section, this is really useful for composing. Normally I would do this with percussion. So say we've had this 8-bar loop repeat twice. The second time round, I might do like a little da-da-da-da-da-da-da, kind of like triplet fill, or dum-dum-dum-dum. If we're in like 4/4, just to kind of not throw off the listener, but it gives you a slightly different feel to it. It's a bit more, ooh, that was surprising. And some of the feedback I've had from other people is that they liked that part. And yeah, so there you go. Maybe it worked. A bit of interest. Piano combined with the strings sounds like this. So again, we've got triplets, and yeah, like I said, normally I'd have percussion doing this, but now I've got the piano and strings doing a percussive kind of movement. There we go. And then all we have here is the short strings basically outlining the chords. It's very basic chords. For this track, again, like I wanted a nice uplifting feel to it without being too cliche in that kind of genre. So I used a common chord progression, which you will have heard of probably before, which is the 6-4-1-5. Depending on how you look at it, if you're looking at starting in the minor or the major, it doesn't matter. But anyway, we have A minor. This is about as simple as it gets on like playing this on guitar. A minor, F major, C major, G, but we have the inversion here, so I've got the B there instead of the G. And just these little passing tones, basically, you know. Those are all actually chord tones. So here, for example, we're on F and we do A and then C, it's like we've played an F chord. But the next chord is C, so it just works really nicely going into it. So it's the same note, it's a note that's shared between two chords there. And it's the same thing here. We're on A. There we have A, C, which are both in the A minor chord, going down to F. And then again F, A into G. And that's G, B, D, which is outlining the chord basically. So that's all that section is. Here we have the gorgeous descant horn. I really like how that sounds. I love that instrument. Gorgeous, gorgeous instrument. If you don't know, the descant horn is basically like a French horn, but it can just go a bit higher. So it kind of splits the range of the French horn and the trumpets. And it's kind of in the middle. So really nice instrument, which you don't hear that often in film scores, but it is used. A really good example is in Prometheus, the main theme, I think it is. That theme is played on a descant horn, so definitely listen to that. So that's that really. We just have that synth going. Keeps that kind of pulse, which is really nice. Following the chords. And then you'll notice here that we have our main melody, and then we have pizzicato strings, which are the solo, viola, and cello. And we also have a harp layering that. And that's just playing a counterline, hinting a counterline that's going to play in the next section. And then here we now get the solo viola and cello, and then the ensemble strings as well doing that. And here we have the solo viola playing that same counterline with the ensemble violas and cellos as well. And here you'll be able to hear the different legato articulations playing. So that's that. And then you hear this, which you will hear over here. So it's the same idea, just developed further basically. The solo descant horn then continues. Let's just play all the soloists in this section. So you can see that works nicely. It'd be nice for a certain type of score or genre, but I just wanted a bigger track overall, so I wanted to use all of these soloists in the context of that. So then you hear it with everything. The sub makes a difference. Percussion's quite simple. That's that. Yeah, we have woodwinds here. So you can see it's the same kind of stuff. We've got the chords covered by the lower woodwinds, which I believe are the bassoon and clarinet, and then I have another clarinet with the English horn playing that counterline, and then the flute is playing the melody. And you can see here that how I've structured this. So the melody, here's a good little tip, the melody is not starting on beat 1 of the bar. So that's something that's used. It's really effective when it's used well. And you can see that that counterline is playing from the beginning, but it still doesn't feel like it's taking over the melody. And the other thing to note is that when the melody is more busy like this, we haven't got the counterline being as busy, but as long as we have this held note here, that's where the counterline has some more movement. And then again here, we have that kind of rundown in the counterline. So there you can see that they're not playing over each other and they're kind of filling in each other's gaps so that when the flute player there breathes, the clarinet and English horn just finish that line off, and then vice versa. You'll hear a lot of great composers do this, you know, people like John Williams and plenty of other composers. So that's the woodwinds, the brass all sounds like this together. And what you'll notice is that the chords are very much spread out here in the brass. Brass sounds really good for this kind of music anyway, big, powerful music when you have open voicings. So rather than having like 1, 3, 5, so say you had a C major chord rather than going C, E, G, if you spread it out across the brass in their mid-range going C, G, E, so that third is an octave up, that always sounds great. So test that out sometime, and I think you'll be happy with the results. That is pretty much it for this section. We have a few different things like downers, risers, choir risers, for example, which I can't really say what those choir risers are from. Moving on. This is the choir riser. Looks like I mislabeled that. That's actually a choir shout at the beginning there. Cool, and then the back end section, yeah, what's the best way to show you this? So here's something that I just wanted to note. In the intro, I've been hinting at the full melody, which we then hear towards the end. So if I show you the flute and the main melody, if I play you the melody here first, and that's been playing together with the flute there. And then at the intro, we have that same melody. This is the theme A, and when you heard that descant horn come in here, that's theme B. But theme A at the beginning is the same theme, but just in a much simpler form. So it's the same theme, but just a lot simpler in the beginning, and rather than bringing down the tempo of the track, I've just reduced the complexity of the melody by taking out some notes and just letting it kind of breathe a bit more, be a bit more lush and ambient. And then in the back end, we hear the final version of the theme. So we have, let's see, everything that's playing that. We have some big doubling going on, I think. There's a lot going on, all playing the melody. So we have solo violin, the ensemble violin, solo flutes, solo sopranic angelic, the cymbalom, the piano, and the singing bowl. Then everything else, let's listen to just the strings, for example. And then we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that next section is the same melody as before that was played here by the descant horn. But just in a different key. That's what's happened there, but we'll get to that in a second. So that's the strings that are playing there, the brass. We don't have any melody yet. In the second half of that A theme repeated in this final section, the finale section, I have the solo descant horn and solo trumpet playing in unison, doing a counter line, which is kind of hinting at the melody that's going to come in the B theme. So check that out. Just a quick note on chords and stuff. You'll see here I actually have it even more simple. I have the trombones playing in fifth, so F, C, and then we have F, C, so that's a fifth, F to C playing in the trombones, and then we have the lower brass playing an F an octave lower. So you have octave, octave, fifth, and then any kind of harmony would be playing above that, which we see here later on. Now notice the counter line. So that is a hint at the melody that's going to come in the next section once we change keys. Another thing worth mentioning here with like more realistic mock-ups, which, okay, this is more of a hybrid orchestral track, so we don't have to be super duper realistic, but even still, we have the brass that's playing really loud and powerful. Now that is going to be a lot louder than the trumpet and the solo descant horn playing at like a mid dynamic kind of level. So that's why they're a lot quieter here. And yeah, let's play that with the strings, just so you can kind of see how that works alongside the melody. And again, you can see that we have the counterline playing on the second beat of the bar, and it's also playing in the gaps when the main melody isn't playing something. And then we have this modulation into the second section, but we'll get to that in a second. Woodwinds, let's take a look at these. So here in the woodwinds, they're just doubling everything. We have some runs and stuff, but the things from solo are like this. Now, if I had spent a bit more time on this, I would have realised, that woodwind player could do with breathing a bit there and a bit there as well. But anyway, so that's that. As you can see, very simple. They're just doubling what the brass and strings are already doing. This isn't a track where the woodwinds are the big focus in the back end section, but they were used earlier, which I really like the sound of the solo clarinet in this section. In that kind of register, gorgeous. Solo operatic here. Just playing an octave lower, doubling the melody and some choir there just to kind of do some backing mixed. There's a lot of mids taken out of that, but it's just sitting in the background. You don't really hear it that much, although it does come in here towards the end. We have a choir riser. There, and then everything else is just like cymbalum and the harp. Just playing the melody and counterlines, but we'll get to that section in a second. Piano, quite simple. So that's just that. Synths are very simple as well, just following the chords really. And the melody as well, with that singing bowl there. Percussion, it's fairly simple. Keeping that drive going, the momentum. So that's that. That's really it for this section. And then we move into the next section. So we've been in the key of A minor or C major, depending on how you look at it. And then we're transitioning into a new key. Which is just the same melody as I said in the previous section, but it's now in that new key, so it feels fresh. It just really gives us that lift. It just feels really epic. I love these kind of key changes. So how does this work? Just a quick bit of theory stuff. So we are in the key, let's keep this simple. We are in the key of A minor and or C major because they're the same really, but I would say this especially this section is more in A minor. And what we're doing is we're playing the chords. Maybe if I show you the piano, this is the easiest way to understand it. So we have the melody here. Okay, let's go back a little bit. So we have so this here is kind of our repeat of everything. I'm going to move all this down an octave, just so you can see everything together a bit more. Let's have a look. All the notes. So the chords here you can see are F, A minor, G, E minor, F, C, and then G. And on G, let's have a look. And then we transition to C minor. So, I don't know if you've heard of parallel keys, so parallel minor to the major. So if we're in C major, this piano is mixed very heavily. So let's turn this off just so you can hear. Say we're in C major, we have the home chord, which is C, which is 1, C major. Then we have the fourth chord is the subdominant, and then the dominant is the G chord, and back to 1, which is C major. Now, a parallel minor is basically the same root note. Instead of C major, we have C minor. So that's the parallel minor. The relative minor scale to C major, though, you might hear this thrown around, is A minor, because A minor, if you go down 3 notes in the scale, we get A. And if we play the exact same notes as C major, but instead of starting on C, we move down to the A. So the same notes, that's called the relative minor scale. What we're doing here is we're shifting into the parallel minor scale. So we're starting in C. And now why does it sound good going into the C minor? Is because in the C minor scale, we have the 1 chord, the 4 chord is F minor, 5 chord is G minor, and then the 1 chord is back to C minor. However, what you can do is in the C minor scale or any minor scale, you can raise the third note and make it a major, and it goes back down to the tonic, the 1 chord really nicely. G major. And that's why it works really well transitioning from C major to C minor or A minor to C minor, however you want to look at it, is because that G chord is in C major. However, it can also work in C minor. They are kind of like a shared chord, not exactly, but that's why it sounds good. Hope that was useful. Let me know if you've got any questions. I am planning to do some sort of video about modulating and key changes and stuff like that. But that is essentially what's going on in the theory here. So it feels, different. We've changed keys, but it's not this really abrupt change. There are similar notes in C minor to what we have in C major, so it feels kind of familiar, but different enough to give it a nice raised feeling to it. There's not really much else to discuss in this final section, but I will play you everything just so you can kind of hear the sections on their own. So strings. That's that. Let's play all the soloists from that on their own. And I have obviously raised the volume of the violin there so it can really soar across the rest of the orchestra, which obviously in a realistic setting it wouldn't be like that, but this is a hybrid orchestral track, so there we go. The brass sounds like this. And that's basically, we have the solo descant horn and trumpet layered with horns, which I'm pretty sure from Talos, especially the rips. Yes, they are. Talos 12 French horns. Cool. Then we have the woodwinds. Not the best woodwinds writing. Yeah, I could do a better job, but that's what I did for this. And then we just have the choir now for this section. That epic choir just really gives it that higher level of intensity. Then harp and cymbalin. Which is just that. You've heard the piano, and then synths, again, very simple. Feels like an 80s pop track there. And then percussion. The main thing here that's changed is we now have these kind of different sounding percussion that is less traditional. And that's basically just there to provide a bit more interest in the percussion. And yeah, that's pretty much it then for this section. Before we get to the last modulation section, I'll just show you what the outro is. It's just piano, two pianos layered together. And we're now back to A minor. finishing on the tonic, C major. We're back home. So all I wanted to show you this ending was, again, let's get the piano an octave down so I can just show you the theory behind all of this. So we have the repeat of the melody. So that melody was repeated there, but we went to a different chord, which is F major, which in the key of C minor gives it that kind of Dorian sound. So that's what we're doing there, we're just giving it that Dorian sound. Which at first you don't know if it is going to be the major chord, because we land on B flat, giving it that sus4 sound, F sus4. And we could go to the minor, but we go. And that really solidifies that we're in F major rather than an F minor chord. And then the ending section is just a modulation going through C minor. You've got G minor, A flat major, B flat major, and then normally we'd have C minor, but we go to C major, which again just gives it a slightly different sound. It's unexpected going up into C major, but that's it again, one more modulation. So at the moment that could be C minor because we don't have the third of the chord there. Because we don't have the third of the chord there to define it, we just have C, C, G, G. So, but the rest of the instruments are giving it away that we're now in C major. And in the strings we have an E in the short strings. So that makes it very clear that we're in this key now. If I mute those though, could be any, it could be C major or C minor. So that just really solidifies it. And that is pretty much it. As you can probably tell, it's later in the day because I had to back up some files to make space on my camera and save off the previous project. So let's dive into it now. Quickly take a look at the mastering. So I did some mixing obviously in that project. I did a few little final tweaks and then the mastering. I have all the stems exported into stems like this. We've got strings high, strings low, brass high, brass low, woodwinds, soprano, choir, choir effects, harp and cymbalum, keys, synths high, synth bass, cymbals, perc, mid and high, mid, surdo, why is that on its own? I don't know. Perc organic, perc low, and then sound effects. And you can see there's a little bit of mixing on each one, not much, something like decapitator here, just for saturation. This great Moog EQ4, awesome EQ. The airband on this is awesome. Again, another one on that one, same on that one, a few different things going on. We have decapitator on the perc, mid and high as well. But anyway, the main things that we've got going on are on the track stack, because that's where the mastering is going on. On the stereo out, I just have a channel EQ and a loudness meter just so I can measure things. And what I'm aiming for here is I've got it set to -14, and when I'm playing through, I'm basically letting the whole track play and aiming for around -14 LUFS integrated with my mastering. We'll get into that in a bit. But that's kind of the standard that platforms like Spotify expect nowadays. But you do have differences for each platform as well. It's a little bit confusing, the world of mastering. I definitely am no pro at this. So the first thing on my master is literally just this. If we go through, actually, let's turn off the actual mastering. And let's just turn off all the plugins on here. And let's go to a section like this. So you can see it's barely any difference, but there are subtle differences on there. With the mastering, let's listen to this. It's just cleaning out some of the honky kind of sounds. That's helping there. And then this EQ is doing nothing. I think I was just using that to check it. Is that doing... Oh, it is doing a very slight dip there. Well, that kind of seems pointless, but okay. I had it on there. Had a gain. Oh yeah, minus 0.5 just because it was going a bit too loud going into the limiter. The Moog EQ, I just have a very subtle air gain here. So that's just bringing a little bit of brightness back in. I have this clipper plugin here, K-Clip 3. If there are any really crazy tall peaks in the waveforms, this is basically just clipping the edges very subtly. As you can see, like -3, I don't think I even get to 1 dB clipped. You can go more aggressive with mastering from what I understand, but this just seemed to do the trick. There aren't any super crazy spikes, but you know, where sometimes you've got like loads of drums and a cymbal coming in, it's sometimes, if you have these huge peaks, it can affect how much you can make the master sound loud, the perceived loudness of it. This is a whole thing that I don't even fully understand, but this is my process. So I am not a professional at this. I would not say that this is like the perfect way to do it. This is just what works for me at the moment. The limiter is doing the main stuff, really. That's giving us the loudness. But again, I'm not pushing it too much. Now if I keep the limiter on, but turn these things off, you'll hear a difference. It's subtle. If we turn everything off, let's take a look at this. If I go here to here, again, keep the limiter on, just so we have the loudness there. For the cymbals, I added a bit of Transx Multi there, just to accentuate the transient a bit. So yeah, it's all fairly simple stuff. It's all subtle, different changes. For whatever reason, I thought that high end just needed to come down a bit in the low strings. So yeah, that was just a bit too hyped, I think, on the strings, so I lowered that. It's with strings, if you make them too bright, it can sound a bit too hyped. So that's pretty much it. That's all there is to this, really. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this useful, let me know down below. If you have any questions about anything, also let me know. I want to put in a disclaimer here, obviously. I do some part-time freelance work with Imperia, so I've created some content for them. Some of their Instagram posts you will have seen, and I created the walkthrough video for them. If you don't want to take my opinion, that's absolutely fine. There's other people that can give you their thoughts on this library. I've just shown you really how I've used it in my workflow, using it with other libraries in the context of a hybrid track like this, and this is most likely what I'll be using it like. I might use it in some orchestral tracks, I'll test that out, but this has been my honest thoughts here. I haven't been paid to make this video. This is me making this video using the library how I would in a track like this, which I wrote for the demo track, obviously. I received this library for free, so all disclaimers there, really. I just want to be completely honest and authentic with you, so that's that. Yeah, I hope this has been, you've learned some composition tricks here as well, with like some of the modulations and key changes. I've tried to make it as useful and valuable as I can. I've shown you everything to do with the mixing and mastering here. I don't always mix like this with stems, just so you know. If it's on a time crunch for a project, then I often mix in the session. That's most of what I do for like library music. I'll mix in the actual session, but in this case I had a bit more time. So I hope that's been useful. Let me know down below what your biggest learning thing things were from this, biggest takeaways, what you liked about the video, and maybe what you'd like to see in future videos. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye bye.